Syria attacking the Israeli planes was a bit of a game changer. Things have changed a lot now. Israel would appear on the face of it to have crossed a red line by attacking Syrian forces and also attacking Hezbollah on the front lines. These were not part of the unwritten agreement with Russia. The understanding was that Israel would only attack shipments going for Hezbollah in Lebanon. But that's become a meme. It's just an excuse for bombing, just like ISIS is an excuse for bombing. Whether you're looking at the Russians or the Americans, they spend a lot of their bombing campaigns on non-ISIS entities. Aleppo's a prime example. There was no ISIS in Aleppo. So, you know, but you say ISIS is a terrorist and you have an excuse to do anything, and you say Hezbollah is being armed and there's a convoy going there, and it also isn't really factually important. Hezbollah has a lot of forces in Syria with bases pretty much in Syria, so they don't even have to transport the weapons to Lebanon. But Israel also attacked this T4 air base, which happens to have Russian helicopters, so Russian personnel were in danger, and that would explain why the Israeli ambassador was called into Moscow. Not that Moscow publicly condemned what Israel did. I touched on the possibility that Israeli pilots had previously gone deep inside Syria, unbeknown to anyone else, either because they were dual nationals or just because they're pally-wally with the Americans and NATO, and they really do mix. But Russia has allowed all foreigners to enter the Russian armed services. The only requirement is that they speak Russian. So you've actually got US, American veterans of wars applying and going into the Russian military. They've made it perfectly clear that no nationality is excluded. It's open to everyone who can speak Russian. They can join the Russian armed forces. Now, there's no way Israel would let go of such an opportunity. It has 1 million Russian speakers. So the mind boggles. How many Israelis, whether they're ex-veterans or not, have entered the Russian military? How many of them are stationed in Syria? Are some of them pilots? They're all calling home and reporting on what they're going through. You're welcome to Google this information. I think it's very profound that Russia's accepting all foreigners into its armed forces. You will see multiple reports clarifying that, and it's come from Putin himself, and it's indisputable. So I think logic dictates that there must be an Israeli presence in the Russian military in Syria. I just can't imagine they would ignore that opportunity and not take it. There's been a lot of tension in Gaza, a lot of allegations of rockets from Gaza, and sometimes there is skin to the allegations, but Israel's apparently taking no chances. It's calling in reservists, it's mobilizing, it's having military drills on the southern border near Gaza. It's all beefing up, you know, for a war zone scenario with Gaza. And what you've clearly got to understand, this means is preparing for war with Hezbollah, with Syria, on the other front, hundreds of miles away. By way of war thou shalt do deception. Everyone is looking at Gaza. That means they're preparing for Hezbollah. Israel won't let this go unanswered, that it seems one of its jets were knocked down, even though it refuses to admit to that. It will do some more attacks just to get the last word in and, you know, proclaim its ascendancy. It's already made a drone attack near the Golan Heights in Syria, and killed somebody involved with the Golani Liberation Brigade, which is modeled on Hezbollah, which is aligned with Hezbollah, which is dedicated to taking the Golan Heights back under Syrian control or Hezbollah control, you know, as the defense military. So, yeah, I think is heating up, and I guess it's coming to a crescendo. The whole war from the beginning was about Hezbollah, and maybe the whole war at the end is about Hezbollah. And Russia is compromised. And what can Russia do? It cannot stand up against Israel. The IMF, the World Bank, everything will just come down like a ton of bricks. It's not a pretty situation, and I'm sure Iran is quite nervous about it, and Hezbollah, I should think, is preparing for an Israeli attack. Israel's story is that no plane was knocked down by Syria, but there was this massive explosion in the sky that people heard for 150 kilometers, suggesting there was a great impact. They say they were intercepting an anti-aircraft missile with an Arrow missile system. The problem with that story is the Arrow missile system is designed for ballistic missiles, not to suggest it could achieve its ends, but it's designed not for anti-aircraft missiles. Look, I'm no expert, but reason to question the Israeli story. And this is all during the Trump administration. And I think he's failed on all fronts in terms of being able to support him. He came on a platform of make America great, give jobs to the Americans, and non-interventionist, no wars, have peace. And it's just the opposite. He's bombing all different countries, preparing to bomb more. He's going to occupy at least one country, if not two countries, Syria and Iraq. They're going to up the amount of troops in Afghanistan. It's just all war. And he's going to up the military budget. And he's cutting down on social welfare schemes. I mean, and he's full of bigotry. It's not worked. And the reason, of course, is because Israel's at the helm. Israel controls the whole show. It's with this Kushner right there. There was the press secretary of Obama that was the previous agent, but ignoring him, Rahm Emanuel, ignoring him. We got Kushner now. Apparently Kushner's done a $250 million deal with Soros just a few years ago. They're all puppets of the Chabad. They're all just puppets. Could be you or me if we want to play that game, swallow our principles, and just cause untold hell on earth. We could also be rich. There's supposed to be this Orly shooting in Paris, and the guy previously, just hours or short time period, shot at some policemen at a roadblock with a pellet gun. A pellet gun doesn't sound too serious to me, but the story continues. And then he was in Orly airport, and he came across a patrol of soldiers and tried to steal the automatic weapon from a woman soldier, and didn't succeed, and put his gun to her head and said, "For God I wish to die," or for Allah. Are we supposed to believe any of this? It's not believable. Now there's a website at this time offering a $100,000 reward to people that can prove that people really died in Sandy Hook, in Charlie Hebdo, in Boston, and a whole load of other ones. I'll put the link in the description. It's from Mike's Twitter account. I'll put that in the description. But it just goes to show you how much fraud and hoaxes have been foisted upon us. It's harder and harder to have a social life. I mean, on the internet you can kind of find like-minded people, and the trouble is it's thousands of miles in distance. But in real life, well, I'm living as an expat, but it's true in London too. It's true anywhere. Well, London has a lot of lectures and talks. So there's nothing here. But, the level of conversation isn't inspiring. And people are into having an easy life for the most part. There's a lot that aren't, but they're just hidden away, doing their own thing, living their lives. I don't really meet them. But it's a tremendous noise ratio. We call it signal to noise ratio. Sometimes it's just better to just say no to everything, be quiet, and see what comes to mind. A bit of silence, and that's where I feel I'm at. The comments in the videos are kind of not mine, but in general on the net are kind of an example of the noise ratio you get. RT actually put an end to it, and they started moderating their comments. But guess what? It's an Israeli company that's in charge of the software, that created the software that moderates the comments. Now tell me there isn't a back door. Huh? Paul Craig Roberts has made an influence, and he's written well, but there are many red lines. Nobody can cross all the red lines. It's not that free a world. But he just put a link to an article, and he put the title, "Israel owns the UN as well as the USA." Now the times are changing. I don't think that's something we would have heard from him in the past. But it's showing how abrasive the actions are on this earth. The constant warmongering and bloodletting is you've got to focus on the source. And it's Israel that's driving this. And it was Kissinger, you know, call him a neocon, I would. But, you know, he made the peace with China. He gave all the jobs in America away. And so the people were just left to join the military and join illegal wars. That makes them illegal in what they were doing. Now, it's a very sensitive thing to say. The veterans don't like it. But that's the harsh reality. Meantime, we're just smothered in kind of staged news. We got, the last thing was Trump's blueprints for the Trump Tower got stolen from the Secret Service, and we should all discuss it. These are staged news events. I don't think they're real. I don't think we're being told the whole story. I don't think we can put these stories in perspective, but they occupy us, and we're all discussing it. And it's really by innuendo. It's a metaphor for something else, which I'm not going to analyze. But what I'm getting at is don't take these news stories at face value, because they're not as presented. I finished there.